Moving forward, I would like to tell you this. This is Stories from India, a book launch. I would like to show you a teaser video of this first, then we'll proceed further. Can we have the AV, please? Okay, meanwhile, we are having our AV set. Let me tell you about this, or we are there for the AV? Okay. This is a based on varied urban lives and their corresponding stories and poems. From out of hundreds of applications and submissions, we have selected the best short stories and poetry for a 4 volume series titled Stories from India. Thank you. As we all love food, do we love food? Okay, so the left wing will not be having lunch, I believe. They didn't say yes. Do we love food? Fantastic. So I want that lunch should not get delayed. So we are a bit short of time. So we'll, uh, fasten up the things, right? Okay. So I would like to call upon all the authors to, say few words and read a brief about their collection from the stories of India. First, I would like to invite Juju's Pearl, Neelam Verma, Manmohan Sadana, Alok Parnadas, Kakoli Ghosh, Kartika Maheshwaran, and Heyman Saxena on the stage and the podium, please. We have 5 minutes for this. I hope you don't mind. And if anybody else want to share anything from Stories of India, the podium is open for you all. All yours.
Good morning, everyone. Am I audible? Okay. I'm Juju's Pearls, Dr. Rimanshu Bansal, a radiologist, blogger, writer, social activist, and a traveler. This is basically my ninth book. Okay. So the title of my story is The Great Indian Marriage Facade. I'll just read up a poem to this. Peers are made in heaven and solemnized on earth. Almost each one of us must have heard this umpteen number of times since our childhood. God created Adam and Eve tasted the forbidden fruit. Since then, the human race has been engulfed in a whirlpool of emotions leading to instability in pursuit of stability. This is not intended to be a satire on the most pious relationship on this Mother Earth, which I consider after mother and the child. Marriage is traditionally defined as a union of two different uh, individuals of opposite sex who decide to be a witness of the life lived by each one of them during their journey on this blue planet. No man can live in isolation. Man is a social animal. On planet Earth, reproduction is the moral duty of all species to keep the circle of life thriving and alive. God never created any differences in its beings. As the human brain evolved, the demarcating lines started happening on land, water, and air. Nobody was spared from the wrath of mankind. Gradually, human beings themselves became the target of their own thoughts and started dividing themselves on the basis of color, religion, caste, creed, etc. In this story, thoughts are being shared about marriage. There are different ways, depending upon geographical distribution, religion, caste, etc., when an alliance is looked for in India. India is truly a land of diversity with unity. There are cultural changes every few kilometers. There are local rituals too, besides religious, caste, and community rituals. In northern India, marriage is never solemnized in blood relations in first or the second degree cousins. Whereas in south, in certain communities, this is a routine. In some regions, there is dowry in the name of the girl. In some region, there are different sets of price tags for the groom, especially if the groom happens to be settled abroad. As one explores my story in detail, the diversity reflects very clearly. However, I always believe there is unity as citizens of India. The life story of Vishu, Viju, and Trisha deals with the sensitive topic of caste and the dominating roles of parents in Indian marriages. However, they avoid being prey to this by progressive approach of Trisha, their friend. Reader's discretion is respected. Do I have 2 minutes more? Okay. So we have this in this story, Vishu, who's the golden boy, an heir to a very prestigious family and a business. Then we have Trisha. She's a she's an intelligent girl with keen interest in social work and who happens to be childhood friend of Vishu. There is an entry of Viju, who is from a low socioeconomic strata, who has entered college on the basis of her poor family background. Vishu, Trisha, and Viju, how they evolve themselves, and finally, how Vishu and Viju get married, and how Trisha makes the supreme, I won't say sacrifice, but I call it a Trisha factor. Ki I just hope in such situations where caste is a barrier or either of the girl or boy is from different background and where the pressure is on the boy to run the family lineage, I just hope everyone has Trisha factor in their lives. Please buy Stories from India Volume 1 to read my full story. Thank you so much.
Hello, good afternoon, each and everyone. I am Kakoli Ghosh Mojumdar from Kolkata originally, but presently I am living in Delhi. And I am here to read my short story, Till Stars Fade, in Stories from India, Volume 2. It is a story based on a person from the Indian embassy, Mr. Vivek Rathore. So I'm just digging into my story directly, a brief excerpt of it. Though Mr. Vivek Rathore looked older as his thin, sorry, let me take my specs. Though Mr. Vivek Rathore looked older as his thin, receding gray hair and lined forehead qualified his authoritativeness, he was hardly more than 52. His cool gray eyes screwed deeply in the sockets, his long, fine-featured face on his firm neck made people think that he was born skeptical and old. He could almost touch the instincts of people and their weaknesses with the fingers of his observant mind. Having discovered his distinguished intelligence and authority to exercise power, Mr. Vivek Rathore was tempted to join the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, dealing with the foreign policy of India, being posted in many foreign Indian embassies and consulates. Year after year, he grew brilliant, wise, celebrated, and solid, with an insight to judge each and every situation with maturity and preciseness. His present rank of the Consul General and the promising future post of an ambassador made Vivek Rathore very conscious of his self-importance and his impression on his subordinate government officials, who never miss an opportunity to display their smartness and knowledge. He knew, reaching the heights of such an imposing rank, he could have no friends. He can have friends only if he can flatter, tell lies about their greatness, and appraise them, ignoring their defects. But when you know that a scarecrow is only made up of weird sticks and tattered cloths, the basic things to scare, so you no more longer need birds of the same feather to flock together. The secrets of reputation and nobility unfold automatically when one has mastered the scare of thinking what people will think. Vivek worried himself a great deal over the art, culture, government rules and policies, India's socio-economic relationship with other countries, etc., and preparing impressive speeches and strategies, and never found him lonely and pale like a footballer out of practice. Kicking, straining, and controlling the ball of action were in his marrow. Sulekha was determined to take her dutiful husband, dedicated to the welfare of his country, to a trip to Cape Town. Staying in Durban as the sophisticated wife of a consul general for a period of almost 2.5 years became enough to convince her of her passive life. Every morning they met at breakfast with a breakfast with placidity. He complained of acidity, chronic backache, lack of sleep, and Sulekha accused him of not taking exercises, working too hard, and taking too much responsibility of the office, not eating his meals in proper time, and avoiding consulting physician. You are overstressed, Vivek. You need a break. Though such ideas seem trivial sometimes, you have to balance your life between why and how, said Sulekha in a grave, assuring tone, pouring him out a cup of tea without sugar. I know, but I can hardly bring myself to think of a holiday or an outing. And I am tired of this tasteless tea. Please at least give some sugar-free stuff. It's better to have a pinch of sugar rather than sugar-free things. Artificial things always have side effects, you know. And forget your old Rajput habit of drinking mugs of sweetened and spiced milk tea. Ginger, cardamom, black pepper, loads of sugar, and solid dessert richness of royal Rajasthan, all piled in the stewing tea. My God. Vivek took a quick look at the number of SMS in his mobile phone and gave judgments about the pack of hard-headed gentlemen, the lazy government officials of his consulate. The plain-looking, dignified, high-class officials are just impossible to deal with, you know. You keep on repeating your ideas before them, but these healthy, cold-minded people will sit on the sofa like trophies and pretend to understand everything that I have said and keep on nodding their heads in a funny sort of way. Do I have more time? Should I continue? 1 minute more? Okay. Sulekha gave him a gesture of sympathy while Vivek went on shuffling through the list of messages, reading and scrolling. I have got so many things to do, but my machinery at hand is like an antique piece of art, inert. Yesterday, I asked that barren-looking, double-chinned man Gupta to send me the name list of the departing ministers and their officials on a particular day who came for meeting during the president's visit. At the end of the day, what they sent? He sent me the names of the visitors who had departed 2 days ago. When Vivek rose from his chair, Sulekha noticed that her husband had put on weight and his wide shoulders drooped a little forward. His good features, his frank eyes still held the slightly embarrassed look of a man of severe personality when praised. It was not the look of austere alertness accustomed to the privilege of blank flattery. Okay? Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. Hi. I'll read portions from my short story, The Ghostwriter. It's part of the anthology called Stories of India, Volume 2. I'm Alok Parna, sorry for late introduction. The story, is, as I said, is called The Ghostwriter. I'll start by, I have 7 minutes? Yeah. Sumita fondly looked at the fancy trophy that had arrived by speed post today. She had won her first award for writing. COVID times meant that the award ceremony would be virtual, no audience, no clapping, no photos. What a pity, said her 70-year-old mother. Thank God, thought Sumita. A public ceremony may lead to some unnecessary attention and trouble in office. Sumita had been a journalist for more than 2 decades. She knew she could write well. Even during her first job as a trainee journalist, she had written and had been appreciated. No monetary rewards, though. It was just verbal appreciation. And when she had to head back home from Gujarat a couple of months after the 2001 earthquake, the magazine she worked for had folded up due to lack of funds. And then a top management boss of one of the biggest companies in the country had asked her to ghostwrite for him. She had refused. That was, of course, a long time ago. In her years as a desk editor in various media organizations, she had rewritten articles by well-known reporters and also published articles under her own name. After all, unlike several other countries, media companies in India do not give bylines to sub-editors. And so, to see one's name in print, a sub-editor has to work extra hours after a regular 10-hour shift to write something that she could call her own. A colleague had sarcastically commented on her irregular articles that economic slowdown meant that freelancers were unaffordable for newspapers, and a byline-hungry sub-editor who would of course write for free was always welcome. Now things had taken a 360-degree turn. The national magazine she was working for had shrunk, and many had lost their job. Sumita was worried. Would she be asked to take a salary cut, or will her dream of a long career in print journalism be cut short? She had to decide fast. There weren't many options available. A former boss had offered her a job in a public relations cum communication firm. Her job, ghostwriting. Then one day, as a team leader began a long discourse on job loss, salary cuts during these troubled COVID times, Sumita accepted the new job offer. Her new job was different from what she had done so far. As an expert rewrite desk professional, she had to keep in mind objectivity of news reports and the news consumption patterns of the readers. As a ghostwriter, on the other hand, she had to think like the client who had bought this particular service from the communication firm. There was one thing that bothered her, though. Her boss had made his displeasure clear when she had written a short story in her mother tongue for a literary magazine. She had argued, but this is creative writing, boss, a woman's story, and the topic doesn't even clash with our company's or clients' interest areas. Besides, none of our clients read or speak my mother tongue. Her boss, Mr. Goyal, though otherwise reasonable, was unhappy. He didn't want his favorite ghostwriter to also be an independent published writer. And now, the same short story had won a prize. A fancy trophy and a framed certificate had reached her house, and the organizers had asked her to shoot a 2-minute video sharing her thoughts on the award and post or upload it on the website. This was an achievement she was proud of, but there was no way she could share it on the social media, as it may prove disastrous for her job. Mr. Goel may not forgive his ghostwriter for becoming an award-winning writer. Sumita was admiring her trophy when the phone rang. Mr. Goel sounded a little irritated. I know you don't like Akash Dhingra, Sumita, but you have to write a nice piece on women empowerment for him. Yes, Sumita didn't like Dhingra. Her boss had explained to her, though, that we are just here to work, not judge people. But an article on women empowerment to be published under Dhingra's name was too much to accept. The first time she had met him, just before her first assignment as a ghostwriter, he was shouting at one of his female employees, asking her to leave the job and go back to kitchen. Sexist, Sumita had thought. And then during recent financial loss due to COVID, he had grinned and told Mr. Goel that he would sack all his women employees in the foreign-funded NGO that he was running, as they should be at home looking after family and children, and not work from home situation before them would mean that they would be mixing up minutes of the meeting with curry recipes. How disgusting. Such a man can't be talking about women's empowerment, Sumita thought. Anyway, she had only 2 hours to finish the article and mail it to Goel for approval. Reads okay, came Goel's quick reply. The next day, the article was right at the middle of the editorial page of a national daily, and Dhingra and his friends had posted the screenshots of the e-paper on their social media platform. At night, as Sumita put the trophy on her bedside table before retiring for the day, Goel called. Was there any problem in the article, sir? Sumita asked. No, that article was good, but look at the reactions. Dhingra bragged about that article on social media. Have you seen Facebook or Twitter? 20-odd women have blasted Dhingra on social media. Oh, just look at their comments. Now we'll have to think of a damage control strategy. Sumita switched on her social media pages. The women Goel had mentioned had given accounts of Dhingra's bad behavior, his patriarchal views, and also questioned the newspaper for having published an article on women empowerment by such a man. Sumita felt a strange sense of satisfaction. The ghostwriter had unintentionally exposed a man like Dhingra. Perhaps tomorrow morning she could post her little achievement on social media without having to fear a job loss. Thank you so much.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Neelam Verma, and I am a medical doctor. This literature is my passion, a little bit of extracurricular activity. I would like to first share with you my short poem, which has been coming in this Stories from India, Volume 1. Love at Last. Tiny florets open their soft petals. Fountains of aroma bursting from their smile fill the void of the huge rocky mountains who waited for ages for these colorful blooms to cover them. Their hard rocks gently hold the fresh blossoms in their arms, nurture them with utmost care. Like lovers united at last, the rocks and the flowers sing for a few moments together, overlap their octaves in a symphony of love. It resonates in the endless rapture of nature and buries itself in its bosom to rise again and again. I am also into even more short poems that are called haiku. So a few of the regular haiku I would like to share. Himalayas. Himalayas chant, nightfall swings her magic wand, Ganga falls asleep. Shadows. Dusk teases hilltops. Forest greens gulp last sun rays. Shadows wait for stars. And then there are, we just heard about what dreams are supposed to be. So the next haiku is dreams. Colors don't ever cry. Winter snow melts in warm hearts. Our dreams never die. Thank you. There is a new style of haiku writing which is called a monostitch haiku, where it's a single line haiku. My first monostitch haiku is Masuri. Sunset clouds slip down foggy slopes. Masuri yawns. Twilight, moon, music, stars, night jasmine sips a dewdrop. And now I will come to my short story, which is really very, very short. I actually don't write stories. My basic passion is poetry, but I somehow happen to pen a few of them. This short story is called Enigma. Krishna was about to leave for the battle of Mahabharat, all by himself. His 18 Akshahoni Narayani Sena had already left for Kurukshetra to fight from the side of Duryodhan. Rukmani stood in the doorway with a question. Why this war? Why this devastation? Isn't it cruel to open the gates of bloodshed just to avenge dishonor done to one woman, Panchali? War against your own, brother against brother, guru against disciple, isn't it heinous? Is there any reason for you to be even involved in it? Are you sure there is absolutely nothing to stop it? Don't you have any compassion for the unknown warriors who will die? Just as your brothers are dear to you, they also must be dear to their families. Do you have any idea what it feels like to lose your dear ones? Krishna spoke in a voice Rukmani had never heard before. Dear Rukmani, do you think I would let even a drop of blood be shed if there was a way out? I assure you that before anyone else, I will sacrifice my dearest one to know what it feels like. Rukmani was stunned. She stepped aside and gave him way, but had one last query. Your son Pradyumna is away with your brother Balram. They are not participating in this war. None of your queens will be there. You said your dearest one. Who is he? Or is it she? All the 5 Pandavas are equally dear to you, so it can't be anyone out of them. Is it Panchali, the fireborn, the root cause of the fury of this war? Is she going to fight on the battlefield? No, your war rules don't allow women to take to arms. Then who? Krishna smiled, placed his hand on Rukmani's head and said, don't think too much, dear. You would only create riddles out of your thoughts. This enigma will soon resolve. You will get all the answers. As Krishna was about to get into his chariot, Rukmani said, at least send Subhadra's son Abhimanyu to me. He will make me so happy in the absence of Pradyumna. It's going to be so lonely back here. Krishna looked at her directly and said, yes, if I happen to see him there alive. Rukmani felt she saw a tear float in Krishna's deep blue eyes. As his chariot left for Kurukshetra, she suddenly realized what Krishna had meant. She knew she had solved the final riddle. She closed her eyes, shut her ears to stop the piercing war cry and its aftermath. Dejected, she sank to the ground. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am M. Kartika Santosh. I am a writer by passion and an engineer by profession. I work as a cost engineer in Engineers India Limited, and I published about 4 books, and I've been featured in 2 anthologies. One amongst them is this, Stories of India, Volume 1. In this book, I have my short stories, 3. 3, as you know, is women. It's about a self-made woman, Varsha, who was a rape victim at a very young age. Despite of that incident, she becomes a lawyer and advocates for other women, and she has an NGO by the name Stree. And this story is about her and her son Suraj and his death, and the reasons behind his death and how she deals with it. Usually all my stories have a twist at the end, and this story does have one. So I'll read a small portion from the middle of my story, and I hope it intrigues you. After all the formalities at the hospital, Suraj's body was finally handed over to Varsha. Varsha just couldn't stand the sight of Suraj's body wrapped in a white cloth from head to toe. It reminded her of the time when he was born, how she used to hold him tightly swaddled in a cloth. She did not know anything about raising a child then. Of course, she herself was a mere child at that time. She was gang raped when she was 14. Even before she knew what exactly sexual intercourse meant, she got pregnant. She knew about her pregnancy only when Suraj was almost 6 months in her womb. She was thrown out of her house by her own parents when they got to know what had happened to her. Varsha did not know if whatever happened in her life had a reason, but she was determined to give a reason for it. She did not want to go and find who the child's father was. She did not want a bloody rapist to father her child. She decided to give birth to a child and raise it all by herself. Life was a bed of thorns for her, but her determination and her son's innocent smile was a guiding angel then. She braved everything and gave her best for herself and her child. On one side, she worked for her living and also did some distance education courses to continue her studies, and on another side, she raised her son all alone. Her brilliance, hard work, and perseverance took her places. She made the impossible possible. She completed a master's in law and she soon became the most successful lawyer. Eventually, she started her NGO's 3, which turned to be a beacon of hope and helped the rape survivors to get past their scars and achieve something in their life. She also advocated for such women and made sure that men who had caused such plights did not go unpunished. She is a great orator too. Few of her seminar videos about amending laws to punish rape convicts went viral over the internet. She instantly became a celebrity, and 3 too became a sensational and acclaimed huge recognition. Varsha was smart enough to put all this popularity to good use, and with all the huge donations she had received from various sources, helped numerous women she could. Yes, she was indeed regarded as a savior of womanhood. But as they say, popularity is a two-sided dagger. Almost every newspaper, TV channel, and social media covered stories on Suraj's suicide. It became national news. Varsha had to literally shut herself from TV and social media to save herself from not seeing the news again and again. The more she listened to it, the more she was reminded of what had happened. She just wanted to forget all of that. Remembering Suraj made her weak, while she wanted to be bold and strong as always. She might have lost her son, but she had countless daughters who were looking up to her. She had to be there and work for them. The last day, the last rites of Suraj was performed was the only day when anyone saw Varsha cry in all these years. Seeing her son laying dead had killed her soul deep within. But from the next day, it was as if she had forgone every memory of Suraj. She did not want to talk about him or be reminded of him. She ordered her servants not even to hang Suraj's photo anywhere in the house and ordered them to donate all of Suraj's belongings and to the orphans and the poor. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm the last one reading, so I hope I don't bore you all.
Sir, I'm the last one.
You are still there? Oh, that's great. Last but one. I'm Manmohan Sidhana. I'm a retired bureaucrat, and my story's name is Lost Moment. The major theme of this story is the forgotten art of flirting and love of the Victorian era. Nowadays, even marriages are taking place on Instagram and Facebook. People commit to each other, and I would just like to read 1.5 pages. These would be the last pages. So you may get tempted to know what happened before and probably procure the book and read it. The train moved from one station to another, and I recollected a day in 1982 when I sat in a park in New Delhi on my first date. It was a pleasant day and quite breezy. Muskan and I sat on the grass and observed the pleasant ambience. The chirping of the sparrows was musical, while squirrels ran around us. We had some peanuts and corn puffs, which we offered to the squirrels and the sparrows. Being close to each other and feeding them had its own pleasure, which cannot be expressed in words. At times, silence speaks louder than the human language. While throwing the peanuts in the air with one hand, I placed my other hand on hers. A current ran through our bodies as our fingers embraced each other. More was conveyed to each other through this intimate gesture than we could have done with hours of conversation. Suddenly, the train stopped with a jolt, and I returned from my world of dreams. Some passengers got out, and the seat next to the couple felt vacant. I would have loved to move there, but it would have become very apparent. I have a gut feeling that the couple was aware that I was spying on them. The train started with a jerk, and I saw the young man place his hand on the girl's palm on her right leg. The girl enveloped his hand, and after exerting a little pressure, placed his hand on his side and unzipped her purse. She took out an engraved mirror and looked into it to ensure her makeup was fine. I was certain this must have had a titillating effect on the gentleman. Hence, it is not surprising that in my mind I quoted Charlotte Bronte, "Flirting is a woman's trade, one must keep in practice." I could take it no more, as what was transpiring had overwhelmed me. I got up and sat next to the young man. He was surprised by my behavior because privacy in Japan is accorded full respect. I tried to break up the ice by asking him, "Do you speak English?" He replied, "Not fluently, but I understand when someone communicates in English." I said, "Thank you." His natural remark was, "For what?" I said, "Long ago I had touched the girl's hand for the first time after a lot of hesitation, and I had received the same response from her. I want to thank you because you have given me back my lost moment." As I got up to get down at the next station, he asked, "Are you still in touch with that girl?" I replied, "We have been married for the last 38 years. As I got off from the train, I could feel that the young couple was staring at me and pondering about their new beginning, which often germinated while traveling in a metro in Tokyo. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much. Being the last speaker, honestly, I request a more intense response. Good morning, everybody. Thank you. I am Colonel Heyman Saxena. I'm a veteran. I have been in the army for over 3 decades, and as I was superannuating, there was an internal journey that started, and I was trying to discover myself as to who am I, what am I really going to do after I finish my tenure in the active services. I was also passing through a medical crisis at that point of time. I was at Chandigarh. My family was staying at Delhi. Idea of writing was there in the back of mind for some time, though I had never experimented with it. But this was a time when I was relatively free. And while I was traveling from Delhi to Chandigarh or vice versa or back, it gave me moments where I could observe things, and I thought, seeing, observing, reacting, and writing could be really discovering yourself. I'm going to read, like I said, I'm the last speaker here. I'm also the last speaker, last person to have approached the publication, and thank you very much for including me at the last moment. That's the reason I'm still not in the print. So I'm going to read a few paragraphs from the story. That is probably my first formal story. The title of the story is Tau Express. Tau, as we generally understand, is a very respectable North Indian word used for any elderly to show our respect and also to strike a communication, especially in the North India part. When I was traveling between Delhi and Chandigarh, because my family was here in Delhi and I was supposed to be in Chandigarh, attached there, I had an option of taking the journey with various options that were available, but I happened to hit upon a train called Queen, Himalayan Queen. So this story is about my experiences, my observations that happened at that point in time. I'm going to be very brief. The Queen is nowhere in the scene. Everybody gathered here is getting a little restless. As the clock ticks closer to six and the April dawn of Delhi warms up, even before the traces of golden sun decide to touch the earthlings. I stay elevated on the foot-over bridge at a vantage point, overlooking the swelling crowd of platform number 4 of Sarai Rohilla railway station. I deliberately stay atop the bridge because Indian Railways are known to play the last-minute trick and change the platform for departure of the train. Yes, I was here to be on board my favorite Himalayan Queen Express that I lovingly call the Queen. These days, I'm at Chandigarh temporarily, and of late it has become my preferred of choice for travel to Chandigarh from Delhi after availing the weekend with my family. I'm going to go a little further. So there are a few excerpts from my journal dated 8th April 2013. I'm actually a bit shocked at the crude visual. This is as the train crosses the Sarai Rohilla station, and I'm just looking outside the window. I'm actually a bit shocked at the crude visual of the male anatomy on display this early in the morning. What I see outside is an arithmetic progression series created by Indian males of all color, shape, and size, squatting on the loop line, running parallel to the Himalayan Queen for the morning ritual of open defecation. Some facing the train, while others making the event even more spectacular, as if I'm facing a rather large canvas of an art cinema of 70s. Mind you, ladies and gentlemen, this is the time when the Swachh Bharat mission has still not been launched. I wonder if all the males from the nearby slums visit this track to answer nature's call. Then where does the ladies go to relieve themselves? Perhaps a more secluded loop lines are reserved for them. I thanked Indian Railway for their unusual service while sincerely praying for these visuals to end soon. As I finished, the Queen gathered momentum as if it was only moving slowly to facilitate the rare spectacle of mathematical wonder. I'll move further. So when the train reaches almost Sonipat, that's the time when it starts getting crowded. That's the time when a lot of people start pushing in, irrespective of the fact that it's a reserved compartment. I don't know if the train stopped first at the platform or the passengers rushed in through all possible openings in the compartment. There's fresh anxiety in the air for securing a place out of limited number of vacant seats in the reserved compartment. People are boisterous, ringing up their other friends to know how is the situation in their compartments. They either invite them by announcing the coach number or quickly leave if the situation is reportedly better there. We are now packed at least 25% over and above the capacity, and I can say this with certainty because there are 4 passengers in every row that has a capacity to seat 3. This is a chair car. Now something unusual happens where my story actually comes to an end. I'm just going to read that small part. The crowd has swelled up in the train. People are packed, like I said, and I'm just sitting on the window seat trying to see what is happening around me. My attention is drawn to a very affectionate Haryanvi, cajoling and comforting 2 tiny tots who are almost in tears, perhaps suffocating due to their short heights in the pushy crowd. He is reassuring them to not worry at all and reach out to Tau, which is the most common and respectable way of addressing any elder, equivalent to the elder brother or father, sitting ahead who will surely take good care of them. A smile crosses my face involuntarily as I remember how my wife, she's by the way here only, as my wife has I remember how my wife has jokingly labeled Himalayan Queen as Tau Express. She has time and again disapproved my choice of this train. We were talking about choice, General Sir, you were talking about choice in the morning. So she has time and again disapproved my choice of this train in comparison to a comfortable Shatabdi Express. Suddenly, I feel a pair of tiny feet descending on my lap. Mind you, I do not know this gentleman. I look up questioningly at this affectionate Haryanvi who's confidently and sincerely airdropping a 5-year-old kid onto my lap, reassuring the shy kid that Tau indeed will take good care of him. I'm the Tau. I think of the futility of choosing the window seat this time. This kid is really shy, and I could sense my reluctance to let him squeeze in. His gentle gestures to occupy barest minimum space evoke sudden rush of affection in my heart. I am suddenly reminded of my younger days when we traveled with our family during summer vacations. Reservations were seldom available and we had to travel in the general compartments. I often felt awkward when my father forced me to pile on and squeeze in the already crowded space inside the compartment. This young child brought back my memories of hesitation and reluctance in causing any more discomfort. I'm surprised at my own reactions as I smile at the child and accommodate him comfortably next to the window and reach out for his not so shy sibling who follows the same aerial route. A smile touches my lips and I gracefully accept the title of Tau for myself and Tau Express for the Himalayan Queen. I wrap my arms around the two small boys and stop making all mental notes. What is your name? I asked the shy one with much affection. Tau ne naam batao beta. Tell your name to Tau. He beamed from ear to ear and I was so happy to see that the Haryanvi has not lost his ability to smile despite the suffocating crowd that had almost crushed his two small kids unwittingly. Thank you.